It's March 7th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with yet another delay to U.S. tariffs on Canada and Mexico. U.S. President Donald Trump has paused levies for some Mexican and Canadian goods imported to the U.S. under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement until April 2nd. Officials from the U.S. and Ukraine are meeting in Saudi Arabia next week to discuss the Ukraine war and resume their minerals deal talks 2 weeks after the two nations' leaders failed to strike an agreement. 15 people were injured on Thursday after two Air Force KF-16 fighter jets mistakenly dropped 8 air-to-surface bombs on a residential area in Pocheon City during live fire drills. The bombing's been identified as an error with the pilot's coordinates input. U.S. President Donald Trump pulled back from his harsh trade war with Canada and Mexico, temporarily suspending tariffs on goods from the two countries once again. Our EU news starts off.
U.S. President Donald Trump has granted temporary tariff exemptions for Mexico and Canada on goods that are covered by a trade agreement between the three nations until April 2nd. Trump said Thursday that a previously imposed 25% tariff will be paused for about 1 month under the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, which, according to a White House official, covers about 50% of Mexican imports and 38% of Canadian imports.
It's just a modification short term because I didn't want to hurt the American. It would have hurt the American car companies if I did that.
This follows the announcement of a decision the previous day to grant a 1-month tariff exemption on cars imported from Mexico and Canada. Trump's tariff plans, which went into effect on March 4th, have caused the stock market to drop and raised concerns among U.S. consumers. Trump pointed to a failure to deal with the trafficking of drugs, particularly fentanyl, into the U.S. as a reason for the tariffs. And according to the White House, Thursday's changes were made after discussions between Trump and Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum and talks between Canadian officials and the Trump administration.
Also, we discussed drugs, and they've been working much harder lately. Do you notice that? On people coming in and drugs, and we've made tremendous progress on both.
A White House official expressed hope that Mexico and Canada will make enough progress on the fentanyl issue so that the matter can be removed from the agenda, allowing the U.S. to move forward with discussions on reciprocal tariffs. April 2nd is also the day Trump plans to apply reciprocal tariffs on countries that charge import taxes on U.S. goods. Also on Thursday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent strongly defended the Trump administration's tariff strategy. Speaking at the Economic Club of New York, he said access to cheap goods is not the essence of the American dream. Bessent said that President Trump is willing to take bold steps to achieve his trade goals with an aim to rebalance the global economic system. Ian, Arirang News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says he will meet with U.S. officials in Saudi Arabia next week, with peace talks set to resume there. Our Lee Seung-ja tells us more.
After the fallout from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's visit to the White House for talks with U.S. President Donald Trump last week, talks on a possible ceasefire for the over 3-year-long war will resume in Saudi Arabia. President Zelenskyy took to X on Thursday to announce that he will be visiting to meet Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He added that after the meeting, he and a delegation of senior Ukrainian officials will meet with senior U.S. officials in the Middle Eastern country to continue talks on ending the Ukraine war. U.S. Special Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, also told reporters earlier in the day at the White House that Washington is currently coordinating talks with Kyiv, adding that the goal is to establish the basic framework for a peace agreement and an initial ceasefire agreement.
And from that, we're now in discussions to coordinate a meeting with the Ukrainians in Riyadh or even potentially Jeddah. So the city's moving around a little bit, but it will be Saudi Arabia. And I think the idea is to get down a framework for a peace agreement and an initial ceasefire as well.
Meanwhile, UK officials say that around 20 countries are interested in joining a coalition to help Ukraine. The plan, which is led by the UK and France, also seeks to help Ukraine in upholding any future ceasefire agreement. Not all countries involved would necessarily send troops, but could provide other support. France is also scheduled to hold a meeting next week with military chiefs of staff from European countries that are ready to provide post-war military support to Ukraine. A senior European diplomat told Reuters earlier this week that a Ukrainian peace plan being pursued by Britain and France is likely to be drawn up in days. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And Trump on Thursday indicated a potential shift in the U.S. participation in NATO to favor members spend a set percentage of their GDP on defense. According to U.S. officials, a possible policy change could mean the U.S. prioritizes military exercises with NATO members that meet the defense spending goal. Additionally, it could choose not to defend a NATO member if it's attacked, which would go against the NATO principle that an attack on one member is an attack on all. Trump has repeatedly criticized the NATO member countries for not meeting the current goal of spending 2% of their GDP on defense, arguing that the imbalance is unfair and places an extra burden on the U.S. Polish President Andrzej Duda publicly praised South Korean weapons during a visit to the NATO headquarters in Brussels on Thursday. During a joint press conference with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, President Duda said that Poland had purchased a large amount of Korean weapons since the start of the Ukraine war. He said the reason Poland buys Korean weapons is simple, saying South Korean manufacturers supply wonderful modern weapons within just a few months. The Polish leader specifically mentioned the K2 main battle tanks, K9 self-propelled howitzers, and the Chunmoo multiple launch rocket system his country purchased. It's been over 3 months since President Yoon made an abrupt martial law declaration. And now, nearly 100 days later, the fate of his political career will be decided soon, as his impeachment verdict could come as early as next week. Let's turn to legal expert An Jung-sung. Welcome back.
Good morning.
Good morning. So speculation is high that the Constitutional Court will deliver its ruling in the second week of this month, that is next week, most likely on the 14th. The question is, why the 14th?
Well, the KCC has some scheduling issues, and if you check the case's calendar, they have opened calendar up to the 17th this month. So we have open window about 10 days to wait for the decision. And also there's previously, based on the previous impeachment trial cases, for the President Noon, it took 14 days. And for the Macron case, it took 11 days to deliver a court decision. So we're looking at maybe based on maybe 14 or 11 days. And also, if you look at going back to the Yoon Sung-yeol's case, and the final hearing was held on the February 25th.
Right.
If we're using two window, calculation, there could be 11th early in the 11th. Or however, and if you based on the speculate based on the day of a week, the both previous cases was held out was on Friday. So with some people saying might be the 14th because that's a Friday. And lastly, there was previously, KCC has like a minimum 2-day advance notice for them to make a decision. So now it's a Friday. So unless we hear something from today from the KCC, most likely on the 14th, I expect.
Well, President Yoon made sure he was present at most of his impeachment trial hearings. Now, do you think he'll show up on the ruling day if it's on the 14th?
Well, yeah, interesting question. Well, first of all, impeachment trial is not a criminal trial. So therefore, in this case, the defendant, right, President Yoon Sung-yeol is not legally required to physically attend any court proceedings. However, he did it in most cases. And in respect that is rather is a privilege for him to attend on the ruling day. So, but we have not heard anything about his representatives and whether or not he show up, but it's a choice for him to make.
Well, do you think the ruling then will be aired live? Because some of the rulings in the past have been were aired live.
Oh yeah, I believe so. I mean, because it's really public interest in and the public has the right to know about what's going on, and this is a very critical case in the Korean history. Okay, and so we have right to know, and they should air live on the day.
So we talked about Yoon's possible presence on the ruling day, as well as the possibility over the ruling being aired live. And also, all eyes are on what kind of statement on the court's decision will be released on the ruling day. This is all confidential at the moment, right?
That's correct, right? Because you don't want to get any leak, because
Right.
there are a lot of political issues already happening surrounding the KCC. So I think that if I'm the justice at the KCC, I think I have two principal goals. First of all, they try to approach the consensus, because that if you have any disagreement officially, there will be a lot of political pressure afterward. That's get even worse. And second, and I think they try to minimize any political or social dispute after the case is over. So I guess they think about the minority view. If they fail to achieve consensus, they have to write about their minority view, which might be politically attacked thereafter. There might be serious attack. So I think that the justice will be concerned about the social instability, continuing after the case. So I think that they try to minimize the social dispute by making consensus ruling.
Well, it's not just the South Korean leader's impeachment trial. There are also other ongoing cases, namely the impeachment trial of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. Now, some experts are saying that ruling for Prime Minister Han Duck-soo will come first. What's your take on this?
Well, it depends on what kind of things you're using, legal theory using it, or if we really first come, first serve, or is it a priority issue. Actually, as you know, that the KCC already publicized the fact that they will prioritize the President Yoon impeachment trial first, right? So I guess they will get prioritized. Second of all, there's some other technical issues that if the Prime Minister Han Duck-soo case comes out earlier, there's more it might create more uncertainty in political arena. Because we don't know what we're going to do with the appointment of the last justice to the KCC bench. So if something happened, there could further delay on the decision process. So I think that KCC would make the president case first, or at least at the same time with the Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, right?
Well, calm before the storm. We'll have to get back to you in the coming weeks. Sir, thank you so much for connecting with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.
What were supposed to be regular joint drills to bolster security ended up in a nightmare as several bombs accidentally fell on a residential area in Pocheon City on Thursday. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung has more.
Several civilians and soldiers were injured after bombs fell on a residential area in the northern city of Pocheon, Gyeonggi-do Province on Thursday morning. According to related authorities, bombs had fallen on Pocheon's Dogongri at around 10 a.m., damaging several buildings. The bombs came from the Joint Air and Ground Force live fire training exercises between South Korea and the U.S. They were being held in connection with the annual springtime exercise, the 2025 Freedom Shield, slated to kick off on March 10th. The exercise involved the Korean Air Force, Army, and U.S. Forces Korea and took place at the Seungjin Fire Training Field in Pocheon. Two KF-16 fighter jets that formed a single flight unit wrongly dropped 8 Mk-82 bombs, 4 from each, veering off and heading around 8 kilometers away from the original target.
The cause of the abnormal drop has been identified as an error with the pilot's coordinates input.
The aircraft's pilot in charge of making the first bomb drop reportedly entered the wrong coordinates before takeoff. Pilots need to verify the numbers even after. An investigation will determine whether the coordinates were double-checked. It is highly likely the second pilot made the same mistake as two fighter jets dropped the bombs almost simultaneously. Mk-82 bombs are used to destroy structures such as buildings and bridges. They are dropped using an unguided method rather than a GPS-guided system. The impact points of all 8 bombs were confirmed, and the Air Force said there were no unexploded bombs. While expressing sincere wishes for the quick recovery of the injured, Korean Air Force established an accident response committee to investigate further and assess the damage. It also noted that necessary measures, including compensation, would be actively carried out. The Air Force Chief of Staff also vowed to conduct comprehensive safety training for all personnel and improve verification procedures to prevent such accidents from happening again. As for drills, the Freedom Shield exercise will go ahead as planned, but the military decided to suspend all live-fire training, including rifle exercises, until the exact cause of the incident is determined. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
South Korea's current account surplus scrapped the surplus for the first month of the year due to fewer working days over the Lunar New Year holiday. According to data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday, the country posted a $2.94 billion current account surplus in January to mark 21 months of the account being in the black. Exports, however, saw a downturn for the first time since September 2023, with a fall of more than 9% year-on-year, with 4 fewer working days in January than the year before. Now, while IT exports continue to boom, non-IT products such as petroleum products and automobiles saw a decline in exports. Over in Spain now, where this year's MWC is taking place. And the 38th edition is once again offering boundless ideas about how practical and handy AI can be in our daily life. Our Lee Soo-jin has this report.
Can you tell me about Arirang TV?
I'm sure there are lots of great entertainment on your TV channel.
Meet Amira, UAE telecom operator Tissalet's humanoid robot. Her realistic natural conversations are powered by generative AI as well as AI-driven natural language processing that enables her to understand speech, recognize emotions, and generate human-like responses in real time. But Amira is just one of the many ways this year's Mobile World Congress is showcasing how AI can be applied across various industries.
This year, AI is sort of like spaghetti. It is everywhere. And I think that's a very healthy sign that we're embedding the new technology in other technologies.
An expansion of AI into various domains and subsequently into everyday life is also reflected in the wide range of startups representing Korea at MWC.
This year at MWC, a record 147 companies are showcasing their innovations in the Korean pavilion. You can see how widespread AI is through those companies as AI makes its way into both daily life and various industries.
Beacon, for instance, showcases how AI is revolutionizing healthcare by using AI-powered diagnostics to analyze skin and scalp images to detect potential issues and provide personalized recommendations for treatment and care. Most recently, it has expanded into beauty with a personal color analysis feature where AI determines users' ideal color palette simply by analyzing a photo of their face. I gave it a try myself and was categorized as winter, which includes cool tone shades. And over in the pet industry, PetNow uses AI and deep learning to scan and recognize unique biometric markers of animals, such as a dog's nose print, to help pet owners register and track their pets more easily. The company believes that the use of AI in the pet industry is going to continue evolving.
Of course, I mean, our standalone app is already harnessing multiple layers of AI, and there are also numerous AI pet tech companies, especially in Korea, where everything's fast, everything's cutting edge, and the pet industry itself in Korea is very booming.
And this widespread presence of AI is generating multiple new revenue streams as it creates diverse business opportunities.
AI's true meaning is people's lives and people's culture, K-culture, and with the especially sports and music. This is the true beauty of the technology can impact the daily life.
South Korean telecom giant KT's AI-powered sports announcer system, for instance, breaks down language barriers at sports games by utilizing advanced real-time AI translation technology.
I'm your stadium announcer, Sumi. Thank you for visiting here. Show your support with loud cheers for the team.
Live commentary and announcements like this during a game are captured and translated into multiple languages in real time. This will make local sporting events more accessible to a wider global audience, which will subsequently open the door to increased viewership, new sponsorship opportunities, as well as lucrative licensing deals for the telecom company. But AI is now generating revenue not only from the entertainment side of everyday life, but also from its integration into homes, a sector traditionally not seen as a high revenue earner for AI. KT's AI-based home service platform leverages the AI-powered IPTV set-top box Giga Genie to connect various smart devices within homes, enabling paying subscribers to control appliances, lighting, and security systems through voice commands.
Genie, I'm home. AI is no longer a distant concept or for a select few. It's seamlessly being integrated into healthcare, stadiums, and even our homes, transforming our everyday life. Isujin, Arirang News, Barcelona.
Good morning, I'm Yoon Se-young, and this is The World Now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has criticized French President Emmanuel Macron following his warning about the threat Russia poses to France and Europe. In a televised address on Wednesday evening, Macron described Russia as a direct threat to Europe. He also announced his decision to open a strategic debate on nuclear deterrence to protect European allies, adding that France must be prepared for the possibility that the United States may no longer stand by its side. In response, Putin on Thursday mocked Macron's remarks by drawing a comparison to Napoleon Bonaparte's failed attempt to conquer Russia in 1812. The Kremlin also denounced Macron's speech as highly confrontational, accusing him of wanting the war in Ukraine to continue. Over in Switzerland, a planned conference on the application of the Geneva Conventions to the occupied Palestinian territories was cancelled just one day before it was scheduled to take place. Switzerland announced the cancellation on Thursday, citing a lack of participants after some countries expressed concerns. The Swiss government had invited 196 signatories of the Geneva Conventions to attend the March 7th meeting in Geneva, which aimed to discuss the situation of civilians in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. The conference was set to focus on the Fourth Geneva Convention, which outlines humanitarian protections for civilians in conflicts or occupied territories. Israel, one of the signatory states, did not immediately comment on the cancellation. However, it had previously criticized the conference, calling it part of the legal warfare against Israel. A lunar lander developed by U.S.-based exploration company Intuitive Machines touched down on the moon on Thursday local time, but its success remains uncertain. The U.S. company said it is unclear whether the Athena lander had touched down upright near the lunar south pole or had tipped over, as happened to its first lander last year. This marked the second moon landing under NASA's Commercial Lunar Delivery Program. Last Sunday, another Texas-based company, Firefly Aerospace, successfully landed its Blue Ghost lander on the northeastern edge of the near side of the moon. In Brazil, carnival fever has once again swept through Rio de Janeiro. Starting on the last day of February, hundreds of street parties, known as blocos, paraded through the city streets with unique themes and musical styles. The lively celebrations attracted thousands of revelers. The highlight of Carnival was the fierce competition among the top 12 samba schools at the Sambadrome Stadium. After a thrilling performance, the Beija Flor Samba School was crowned the winner for the 15th time, and the results announced Wednesday. The festival will continue until Saturday.
The warming trend seems to be kicking in, and we are seeing a welcome rise in temperatures across Korea. However, mornings stay on the chilly side, so stay mindful of wide temperature gaps and do dress accordingly for your mornings and evenings. Unfortunately, the dust level will remain high in western parts of Korea, so consider wearing a mask when outdoors. Staying hydrated also helps protect your respiratory system. This will also help to combat the low humidity level. Air quality could still be impacting our weekend with warmer air, but southern provinces will see some spotty rain on Saturday under cloudy skies. Afternoon highs will be similar to yesterday, topping out at 10 degrees here in the capital. Daegu, Gyeongju, Busan will be seeing at 11 degrees Celsius. Afternoon rain is in the forecast for Jeju. And by early next week, it could feel like early April with daytime highs in Seoul, topping out in the low to mid-teens. So it's time to pack away your winter jackets this weekend.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
껍데기는 가라, 알맹이만 오라. 그래서 플라스틱이나 일회용 포장지로 이렇게 둘러싸여 있잖아요. 그 껍데기를 치우고 알맹이만 리필하자는 의미에서 무포장 제품들을 판매하고 있습니다. 좋은 점은 자기가 원하는 만큼만 살 수 있다는 거예요. 비우고, 헹구고, 분리하고 이런 과정을 거치지 않아도 되는 거죠. 저희 손님들이 자기 용기를 사용해서 새 플라스틱을 줄인 이제 1년 결과를 내보면 거의 10만 개 정도 플라스틱 공병을 10만 개 정도 아끼거든요. 그래서 이런 가게들이 많아지면 새 플라스틱 사용도 줄이고 쓰레기가 될 물건들도 구조해서 재활용시킬 수 있는 거죠. 우리가 플라스틱을 배출한 다음에 얘들이 어떤 루트를 타고 어떻게 재활용이 되거나 버려질까 이걸 직접 눈으로 보고 싶어하는 쓰레기 덕후들이 이제 저희 주변에 많아요. 보시고 난 전후가 다르다. 굉장히 쓰레기를 보는 자세, 쓰레기를 어떻게 줄일지에 대해서 획기적으로 자기 자세가 바뀌게 됐다. 이런 말씀 되게 많이 해주셔서 힘을 내서 매달 하고 있습니다. 사실 낯서니까 힘들어하시는 것 같아요. 낯서니까 더 불편하고 힘들다고 생각하실 텐데 여기 오실 때는 가벼운 마음으로 오시면 됩니다. 저희 손님들이 기증을 해주신 깨끗한 용기를 저희가 한 번 더 소독을 해요. 그다음에 쫙 무료로 비치하기 때문에 그냥 오시면 되고요. 오셔서 이제 무게를 재는 방법들은 저희가 다 설명을 해드릴 거예요. 나는 알맹이만 담는 그리너입니다.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation. Bring news just for you. It's Friday, March 7th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and thank you for joining us on News Generation. Joining us today is Lee Bin.
Good morning.
Good morning, and Brooke Prince.
Hello, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. As many of our viewers will know, every Friday we wrap up the week with conversations that matter to young people around the world. And today we're tackling a growing concern that many countries are facing, which is a rapidly aging population. Now, this demographic shift has already started to become a major challenge, bringing with it concerns like declining economic productivity and increasing pressure on young generations to support and care for seniors. But rather than just focusing on the challenges, today here on NewsGen, we're going to explore how society are adapting and finding new solutions. So to start us off, Bin, can you give us kind of like an overview of Korea's current demographic situation?
Yeah, absolutely. So as of December of 2024, Korea has entered the super aged society, where more than 20% of the population is over the age of 65. And on top of that, Korea is the fastest aging country due to its lowest birth rate in the world. Now, if we convert this into numbers, in 20 years, Korea is projected to become the oldest country in the world, with over 37% of the population being seniors who are over 65. And this is definitely one of the biggest concerns that a lot of Koreans have nowadays.
Right, so far we kind of have a grim outlook when it comes to the demographic landscape here in Korea. And Brooke, I want to ask you, are you actually noticing more and more senior citizens making up Korea's population?
Well, I have been here for almost a decade now, so I will say, at least anecdotally, I've definitely experienced an increase in this population. But coming from the perspective of a foreigner, I learned very early on when I came to Korea just how important it is here to respect the elderly. It's even embedded in the Korean language itself. You learn that there are different words and word endings, they're called honorifics, that you use when you're speaking to someone that is older than you. So this deference for older individuals is very vital to the Korean culture and society. And you see this everywhere you go. When you take public transportation, for example, there are designated seats and areas for these vulnerable groups. And if there aren't enough seats, then I myself have offered my seat to an older individual, and I see young people do that all the time. It's more than just an expectation, it's almost a reflex. They get up automatically. And so this is a very heartwarming thing to see, but the problem is with us entering a super age society now, there are more and more elderly individuals that don't have enough seat space. And if you've ever taken public transportation in Korea, you know it's a bit of a bumpy ride. It's a pretty hilly area, and so it can be dangerous, and it's a lot more dangerous for an older person to fall in those situations. So it always kind of worries me to see how many people are just standing without those accommodations. So I think these are some of the factors that we're going to have to start thinking about now that we have a larger segment of this population.
So the fact that we are seeing not enough designated seats for the senior population really provides a snapshot that our society is aging at a rapid pace. Right, so as our population once again ages at a very fast pace, we're also seeing a rise in seniors living alone, which in some cases leads to poverty and even what's known in Korea as kodoksa, or lonely death. And there have been increasing reports of elderly individuals being found days, weeks, or even months after passing away, having had no one to check in on them. So in response, governments are stepping in to address this issue, rolling out initiatives to keep seniors connected and cared for. So what are some of these efforts? We're first going to start with Korea and then expand to other countries.
Yeah, so Korea is trying to implement a program called 동거 동락, which means to live and enjoy and thrive together. This comes from the old Korean idiom 동고 동락, which is an expression for people who has a very close relationship, meaning to go through pain and joy together. And this program allows senior and a young adult to live together by renovating the senior's house into a space where two people can live together comfortably. And unlike the younger younger individuals who need to constantly pay rent in order to have a living space. Most seniors, fortunately, do own a house, and this policy utilizes the excessive housing space that seniors have. Young adults will move into the senior's house, and this will allow the young adults to have a much more affordable housing option than the traditional rents, usually them being about half the price. And for seniors, it will allow them to have a partner to watch over them.
Right, so these type of programs are currently being offered by the Seoul City government and Busan City government, which are the two biggest cities here in the country. Then we're now going to expand our discussion and take a look at cases overseas.
Yeah, Wonbin really explained that program very well, and similar initiatives are being implemented in other places too, including France. So in France, they are also offering this kind of intergenerational cohabitation program, and they've been established in order to address both student housing shortages and elderly isolation, because it's not just an issue in Korea.
Right.
And so what these initiatives do is they pair young individuals that are in need of a place to rent with elderly individuals that are in need of a companion. And so it's kind of this mutually beneficial relationship where they can build a bond together. The student can get, wisdom from being with someone older, and the older person can have the reassurance of knowing that someone is in their home in case of emergency, and also just to build a friendship together. So this is just another example of a really, heartwarming way to address the issue of a super aged society.
And we're going to talk about the pros and the potential cons of these programs later in our show. Now, meanwhile, Japan is another country that is facing a similar demographic challenge, and they've implemented similar programs to address it. So when we come back after the break, we'll be joined by a journalist based in Japan to take a closer look at how those programs work. Stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Welcome back. Today, we're delighted to have Koichi Yonemura, Deputy Foreign News Editor at Mainichi newspaper, on our show today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Mr. Yonemura, Japan, we heard, has launched a program similar to what our panelists mentioned earlier, the so-called Motomate service. So could you please explain how this works?
Motomate is a project run by a company called Age Well Japan, founded in January 2020 by a young entrepreneur, Miss Akagi. She's definitely part of a new generation. And she started the company after being shocked when her grandmother in her 80s said, "I've lived too long," and wanting to create a society where seniors feel that life is enjoyable and worth living longer. And this company has two main projects. First is, as you said, Motomate project, where university students and young adults work with seniors to explore ways for them to stay active. These young staff members receive at least 15 hours of training and are called age-well designers, meaning they help to find better ways to age. And the second project is Motoba. Motoba is a shared community space currently available only in Yokohama city, and it brings together seniors and younger generations in a natural setting, located in a convenient building near the station, and it operates as a membership-based co-working space where people can work or socialize. And about 40 to 50% of the members are seniors, and about half are younger generations. And actually, what makes AgeWell very unique is that these services not only support seniors, but also serve as a research platform, gathering valuable insights on how to foster a more senior-friendly society and improve communication between generations. And that the insights gained are also shared with major companies like telecom providers, banks, and travel agencies, helping their younger employees better serve senior customers.
I see. Well, thank you for giving us the outline of the MotoMate service, sir. Now, what's the general public's perception of this service? Are people optimistic about it, or are there more concerns about this service?
Oh, well, it is rather optimistic, but you may have noticed that seniors using MotoMate service and the Motobus service are, in a way, part of an experiment to develop better senior-focused services. However, what I heard from members of Age Well Japan is that there have been no complaints from them. In fact, many seniors are eager to share their opinions and even make suggestions to Age Well company. The reason why I think that they are so cooperative is that they agree with the project's goal to create a society where intergenerational communication thrives and seniors can enjoy a more comfortable and engaging life. So they are customers and also a part of the team. And that said, the company is actually still small and not very widely known in Japan, I should say. However, it has raised 250 million yen, 1.8 million US dollars in funding over 5 years and hosts annual events with around 10,000 participants every year. So I think it shows that it is gaining recognition.
Wow, well, that sounds amazing. Thank you for your insights today. I have one more question for you. Like Korea, Japan is also a super-aged society. So could you share some other policies or initiatives that Japan has put in place in order to manage its aging population?
Honestly speaking, I'm not an expert on aging issue, but as far as I know, there are more projects emerging with similar goals, encouraging seniors to stay active and engage with society. For example, in the southern part of Japan, Kyushu Island, a company called Uki Hano Takara, they create job opportunities for women over 75, and now their project is gaining a lot of attention now. And as Japan's aging population, as you know, continues to grow, it's becoming more crucial to build a system where seniors can contribute their skills, knowledge, and experience while also ensuring that younger generations develop the ability to engage with seniors more effectively.
I see. All right. That was Koichi Yonemura, Deputy Foreign News Editor at Mainichi Newspaper. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so our panelists and our guests just explained various intergenerational house-sharing initiatives around the world where young people live with seniors as housemates. But at the moment, this is quite an unconventional concept because it's living with someone from a completely different generation. So I want to ask our panelists, are you willing to try this program out? And what do you think could be the pros and cons?
Obviously, excuse me, there will definitely be some hiccups, even if we don't consider the generational difference. It's just living with another person.
Right.
However, the merit is very clear and strong. Both individuals have something that each other does not have. One has a living space, and the other has the physical capability to maintain a household. And in this case, for explaining the cons, I think showing an example will be a good explanation. Did you guys watch the movie Untouchable by any chance?
I haven't seen it.
Yes, well, to give a brief explanation, it's a movie from 2012. It's a French movie, and it's a movie about friendship between two people who lived completely different lives. One had a very wealthy lifestyle, but has a severe medical condition that needs constant supervision and assistance, and the other financially struggled his whole life. And it's a story of them living together. At the beginning, there was a lot of conflict and friction between the two. It just seemed impossible for them to get along. However, as time passed by, they begin to understand the differences between each other and form a relationship where they can fulfill something that each other does not have. Now, obviously, this is a very optimistic example, but I think it is still achievable in real life, like up to a realistic level where senior and the young tenant builds intimacy beyond the objective benefits of having a partner and saving rent from this co-living agreement. So I think there are a lot of pros beyond of just the surface benefit that both parties get.
Right, they can really get a great sense of companionship, and for the young people, they can also face reduced living costs, which is definitely a very, very big advantage for them. But on the other hand, Brooke, there will be some risks and potential downsides, right?
Right, of course. It does kind of sound like that oddball couple in a comedy, right? It can work. I think it can be a wonderful option.
But not always.
Yeah, it can be win-win, but also, like Wonbin mentioned, it's a stranger that you're going to live with. So regardless of the generation, there are always risks when you're moving in with a new person. But particularly in this case, because there is that intergenerational gap, you have to think about, do you have different belief systems, routines, lifestyles, things like that? And there are challenges and risks that you're going to have to overcome. And you're going to have to define and really lay out your boundaries and expectations. Students, as the younger one in the relationship, they might feel like they're gaining another parent in a way. They might feel like they have a lack of privacy. For the elderly one in the equation, they might need more emotional and physical support than a young person can really handle or provide. These people are not, mental health professionals, they're not medical professionals, so it could be overwhelming to take on that caretaker role. But at the same time, they both have things that they can gain from each other. The other thing that you have to think about is that for students, for example, if they are choosing to live with an elderly individual, that oftentimes is a short-term commitment.
And it's a contract.
It is. It's a contract. And so for an elderly person that might be seeking a more long-term companion, that could be heartbreaking for them when they leave. So these are all of the things that you really do need to think about. It needs to be structured properly, but I think if it is done well, it can be extremely helpful for both parties involved.
Absolutely. And now time to listen from our viewers. We also asked them the same question. Would you be willing to live with an elderly person in exchange for reduced rent? So we ran a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel. 63% said yes, I would, while 37% said no, I wouldn't. So we're going to take a look at some of the responses. Our first comment for this Friday is Dianze. As long as the person is nice and the house is clean, I'd be willing to. Buja Flava says, as an African, we are used to this life of taking care of older ones. This can't be an issue for us. Jocks Parpine 3217 says, it's a good idea, but no, my privacy is far too important for me. All right, thank you for giving all your opinions. Now, bringing our discussion back to Korea, I want to talk about what other policies or support systems that are in place to help manage the aging population.
Well, in Korea, this January, a government committee called, bear with me, PCASSP, which stands for Presidential Committee on the Aging Society and Population Policy.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
You made it.
Yeah, I did. Announced some measures for this super-aged society in Korea, and they're aiming to dramatically increase the regional at-home senior care services and provide various services that will improve their living environments, such as renovating services. As we discussed earlier about the co-living program, the biggest problem that must be solved is who will take care of them. And in today's society, there are a number of limitations for the senior's family to take care of them 24/7. For example, compared to the past, both men and women are expected to work. And compared to the past, it is considered more dangerous and irresponsible to just leave your child outside in the playground until sunset. So therefore, the policies and programs that can alleviate this matter is crucial.
So Wonbin kind of mentioned what the government is doing, and I heard, Brooke, that there are some cutting-edge technology that's actually helping these seniors.
That's right. I definitely want to highlight the role of technology in supporting the elderly, particularly in South Korea, which, as we know, is a very advanced country when it comes to tech. So the private organizations and the government are working together to integrate these technologies into the lives of vulnerable individuals. For example, there are AI companion robots that remind the elderly to take their medicine, encourage regular exercise, and also foster social interaction in order to reduce loneliness. There are also startups like Hyodar AI, which is a doll that can provide that sense of companionship and also reduce isolation. And this is not only happening in Korea. Globally, there are many other examples of AI being used to combat this issue of super-aged societies. For example, in Japan, they have these humanoid robots that can help assist you with daily tasks. In the US, there is an AI mentorship program that matches older individuals with younger ones, similar to the program I spoke about in France. There are also AI algorithms and smart home appliances and systems worldwide that can detect emergencies and monitor the well-being of these individuals to make sure that they are safe in their own homes. So I really think technology is doing a great job of helping us to address this issue.
Right, and I think that this industry is only going to get bigger because once again, we're seeing a shrinking and aging population. Right, and ending off, there's a reason why we brought up this topic today, because this isn't just a challenge for the older generation of today. It's something that affects all of us. With birth rates continuing to decline, seniors will make up an even larger share of the population in the future. And what that means is when our generation reaches that age, we could be living in an even older society than today. So given this reality, how can we both as individuals and as a society better prepare for the future? In other words, age well.
So personally, I think we also need to shoot a spotlight to the fundamental cause of this situation.
Definitely.
Well, definitely on top of the policies that mitigate the current problems, I think there must be policies for the future as well. In other words, we need to bring back the birth rate. Korea needs more babies. Government benefits that can incentivize married couples to have kids are basically non-existent. And some examples on off the top of my head are governments can offer loans that can be offered a loan forgiveness once you have kids. Another example is having welfare points that can be used for basic necessities as diapers or powdered milk, with the exception of premium products. And although resolving the urgent problem is the most important problem at the moment, it is also necessary to tackle the fundamental cause in the shift of this society in order for us to thrive long term.
Definitely. What do you suggest, Brooke?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that although we're young right now, we are news gen, right? We're representing Gen Z and millennials. Everyone ages. And so we really need to start now and help our current generation and future generations so that our society can be even better in the future. So we need to look at the immediate needs and the long-term needs as well. I think we should take a look at housing and pension, caretaking for the elderly, and also try to eliminate ageist stereotypes so that we can foster a better intergenerational bond and solidarity. Because like I said, we all age, we're all in this together, so let's try to make a more sustainable and inclusive society.
Fingers crossed. Hope we can build a society where life is enjoyable both for the younger generation and the older generation. And that wraps up this Friday's episode of News Generation, but we will be back next Monday at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Iwon Bin.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Brooke Prince.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching throughout the week, and hope to see you next Monday here at the same time. We are
News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Cafes. Step 1. Find a seat. Before ordering, find a seat. Laptop ID, smartphone, jacket, whatever that can mark your territory. But no bites. It's a little too big. Step 2. Pick up. We do not ask or call your name. We call out B69번 고객님.